Hi, Beach Baby Bob here. I'm going to make a ice cream pie. It's a favorite of mine and my family and has been for years. We kind of found the recipe somewhere years ago. Somebody might have given it to us, and then we tweaked it. And so now it's perfect. And you can look it up on the internet, ice cream pie, and you'll get the ingredients and how to make it and everything else. But ours is the best. Just try this recipe and you'll never turn back. And so anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is get some semi-sweet chocolate, about 5 ounces or 5 squares, and put that into a little tiny pot, and maybe 1 square of unsweetened chocolate. So I have about 6 ounces in a little tiny pot, and I'm going to melt it very slowly. And then once it's melted, I'm going to let it sit and cool down. That's very important. So I'll just show you what the pots look like. You can come up with your own way to do this, but here's my method. So this is what my situation looks like. So the chocolate ounces are in there, semi-sweet, and maybe 1 ounce of unsweetened chocolate to a total of 6 of those. And it's in a little pot sitting inside a bigger pot, and it's gradually melting. So while the chocolate is cooling, I'm going to make the crust, and it's in a 9-inch pie plate. And I'm going to take some soft room temperature butter, and I'm going to grease the pie plate. And then I'm going to get these cookie crumbs here. I buy the Christie's Oreo where I live, and they come in a little bag like this. They're all done. They're all finished. I don't have to put them in a blender, these cookies, and grind them up. They're already nice and fine and perfect for this crust. So I'm going to use that many cookie crumbs for this pie. And I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of melted butter, which I'll melt in my microwave over there. And I'll mix it. I won't add any salt, and I won't add any sugar. I'll just use the crumbs and the butter, 1/4 cup and the bag of crumbs. And it'll be melted butter, and I'll mix it in a bowl. And then I will pat it down inside here and make the crust. I'll save a little bit of the crumbs for the top of the pie later. Okay, got that? So there are my crumbs in the bowl, and then my melted butter, 1/4 cup, maybe a little bit more. That's it. I'm just gonna mix it all together and put it into this greased pie plate right here. I have to grease that too. So there's the pie crust, the chocolate crumb pie crust. Now, I've made this pie so often. I put the crumbs in the bowl, I get the butter, I melt it in the microwave, and I mix it in with the crumbs with my hands. And it calls for about 1/4 cup of melted butter. So I'll bet you I used 3/4 cup today. That's a lot of butter, but I had a lot of crumbs in that bag, and I can just feel as I'm mixing it together with my fingers, the texture of it. If it's too dry, because we're not going to bake this, if it's too dry, the crumbs will all fall apart when you cut the pie. If it's too wet, they'll be as hard as nails. It'll all taste great, but you got to get it just right. So I don't know, you start off with 1/4 cup of melted butter, mix it with the crumbs with your hands, and then go, I don't think it's moist enough. It's just not going to set quite right. And then play around with it until you get the right amount of butter. Put it in there. And then we're going to take our favorite ice cream. And in our part of the world, we use Chapman's. It's a type of ice cream you can buy at the Loblaws grocery chain stores. Like we have one called Sobeys, and we have one called Zares. And anyway, those are the names of the grocery stores that carry the Chapman's brand. And because we wanted the best ice cream to do this pie, we researched this, and we found out that Chapman's French vanilla ice cream was rated really quite well. And so we started using that one. We're going to let that soften quite a bit. Not melt, but soften, so it's just sitting here on the counter. And then we're going to scoop it into the shell and make a big hole in the middle for our cream, our chocolate cream to go into later. So we don't want too much ice cream, but we want enough. And there's got to be room for that chocolate cream, which is the best part. So I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes after the ice cream over there has melted. If you have your favorite brand of ice cream, like maybe Shaw's ice cream if you're living in Ontario, Canada, or depending on where you are in the world, use your favorite ice cream and you'll love it. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. So now comes the most important part. It's the creamed filling that goes in this chocolate pie, ice cream pie. So I'm using my Braun Mixmaster here that I inherited from my mother-in-law. It works really great. Notice the blades off to the side, and it works really great. Anyway, and so I'm going to take my half a cup of butter that's room temperature and put it in there and start to whip it. And then gradually add my 1/2 cup of granulated white sugar. And this is organic, so the crystals are a little coarser than if you bought ordinary white sugar in your grocery store. So this might not fluff up quite as well as the regular sugar, but the other sugar, the regular white sugar, even though it's finer, has additives and things in it that this doesn't have. And so it might fluff up more, but it won't be as healthy, even though most sugars aren't, that's another story, aren't too good for you. But here we go anyway, so I'll let you know what this looks like before I get to the egg part. This is my fluffy butter sugar mixture in my Braun Mixmaster. Anyway, so I put the butter in, 1/2 cup of room temperature butter, salted butter, and I thought, nah, I don't like that. I don't think it's enough. So I added, maybe I got 3/4 to a cup of butter in here. And then I started to add the organic white granulated sugar a little tiny bit after I got the butter pretty fluffy by itself. And this is what it looks like. So it's not that bad. Tastes okay. So now I have to get the chocolate mixture, and it has to be cool. It has to be cool. If it's warm, this butter will just turn to liquid. And I add the chocolate mixture in this beater here, and it'll be pretty fluffy once I got it all blended. And then I'll add the eggs one at a time. There's 2 of them, large eggs, room temperature eggs, one at a time, and I'll beat them into the chocolate and into the butter and the sugar for 2 minutes each. So that's a lot, but first I'm going to get the chocolate and blend it with the butter. Here's the chocolate blended in with the butter and the sugar, and it's, remember, the chocolate was room temperature, if not a little cooler, and it got pretty stiff and pretty fluffy. That's the way you want it. Now I'm going to add the eggs. There's 2 of them, one at a time, and each one will beat in with this mixture for 2 whole minutes. The cream mixture turned out perfectly. That's because the chocolate wasn't added to the butter and the sugar mixture until it was room temperature or even a little cooler. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster. And then we made sure the eggs, the 2 eggs, were added one at a time and beat up for 2 minutes in the mixture, but they had to be room temperature too. So if you're in a hurry to do this and you can't wait and you're impatient, it'll be a disaster. So now we're going to add the cream mixture into the ice cream, and the ice cream is sort of a little higher along the edges, and there's kind of a little dip in the middle. So we're going to add the cream inside, and it should be like that. It should, you'll know if it's too runny, you've flopped. Tastes great, right amount of sugar, right amount of chocolate. I can tell. If you make this ice cream pie over and over and over again, you'll get it right eventually. You won't need a recipe. However, the problem we have now is that we're going to put those cookie crumbs, some of them anyway, on top, and then we're going to put it back in the freezer and leave it in there for a couple of days, and then we're going to eat it at a party we're having on the 7th of January. It's the Ukrainian Christmas, and no, this ice cream pie is not Ukrainian, but it's so popular. When you ask some of our relatives and friends who are coming to the party what they would like to have for dessert, they say nothing but the ice cream pie. It's all we need. We don't want the cakes. We don't want any of the cheesecakes. We don't want the fruit dishes, the trifle. We don't want that. We just want the ice cream pie. And there's 6 people coming to the party, so they'll each get a substantial piece. Maybe I'll serve them a little piece, and then when they're gone, I'll eat the rest myself. If you wanted to, you could quit your job and just make ice cream pies following this recipe, and you would become a millionaire within months. Okay, Sue's ice cream pie recipe. You can check out my YouTube channel where I'm going to post this. So I'm Beach Baby Bob, and my YouTube channel, I forget what it's called. It's called Rob's Best Recipes. Anyway, over and out. Have fun. Happy Hanukkah or whatever it's called. Ukrainian Christmas. Holubchi, cabbage rolls, all that stuff.